Okay, guys, I was supposed to. I said I was going to do type up a recap of last week's game, but it turns out I'm lazy, so I don't want to do that exactly. I've got the material. I had to do a bunch of pulling together material to get together pictures and stuff and fix up the Roll20 stuff because some things had sort of gotten lost. So in the process of doing that, I figured I would just grab the pictures that I had in the Roll20 thing and do a quick video thing and do a quick recap of last week's game. Okay, when we last left our heroes, we had blown up everything and people were kind of beat up, especially Hesmet and a few other folks. Hesmet's probably the worst off. Quite a few other folks had taken, had taken some damage and gotten beat up by the explosions in attempting to take out the power station from the Imperials. Which you may remember this little thing, this horrifying map, which I'm, because I can resize that, but I'm not going to worry about right now. But you remember that map. You remember Lead This Way, so we're not going to worry about that right now. Anyway, in the meantime, gathered together. First, let's quick recap a couple things. What's going on with everybody? Akana is currently in the city of Aziz. She's kind of ensconced with her people and using that as cover so she can watch the activity that's going on in the Imperial City because it's basically become kind of a beehive of activity since the explosion. A lot of accusations going back and forth that we've been able to pick up thanks to your ability to listen in on Imperial communications. The Moff's people are blaming the Admiral's people for stuff. The Admiral's people are blaming. You don't have access to the communications between the Admiral and the Moff directly, but you do have what's going on sort of in public on the Imperial comms, and clearly those people are kind of going after each other. So with Akana, she's back in the city, hanging out with her people, and she's sort of swapping back and forth with Ghana, watching things like the landing areas and that sort of thing, the spaceports, and checking on Imperial activity. So those two are in the city. Ghana's hanging out with her actual family, and Akana's hanging out with her air quotes family. Backup and Hesmet are both back at the base. Backup has been, sort of reconning everything, or going over the intel and trying to figure out what the next move is going to be, and anticipating some sort of counter move from the Moth. Thinking he pretty much has to know what's going on at this point in time with the base. Maybe, maybe not. It's hard to say. Hesmet's been recuperating. He's got sort of a plastic plate over his damaged ear that's got kind of a resin fill into the damaged, basically hole where his ear is until some sort of cybernetics can be acquired. So he's one side of his face is sort of this plastic plate that's sort of stuck in there, and he keeps fiddling with it. He's also kind of been a funk and doesn't seem to want to do anything, partly because of what happened and partly because of some conversations he's had with Saw. And who else? Who else? And Alir has been going through all the intel and stuff like that and training the new people. A lot of the people who got brought to the base by Saw are techs that he promised if you guys did the job last week, which you did, the last mission, which you did. So he's supplied like 20 some odd techs that are currently staying at the base now and have sort of become like, Alir's responsibility to a certain extent. Backup's been training them some basic security and uniform discipline when they're outside the base, dressing like stormtroopers and stuff like that, and been doing a great job at it because he's sort of put each of the ones that are in a uniform get to sort of arrest and put in the brig those who aren't in uniform. So they're sort of busting each other, and that's been working out really well for getting them trained on uniform discipline. But Alir's been handling all the tech stuff. So she's been living in the comms area pretty much exclusively since they got back. Meanwhile, Saw has been driving Hesmet crazy with sort of constantly bugging him about whether or not the rebellion's gotten back to him. Saw, having heard about the kyber crystals and knowing that the Empire is experimenting with kyber crystals, that seems to have some sort of relevance and importance to him because of information that he has from back in the day, like back early days of the Empire. They were doing something with kyber crystals that could be very, very big deal, and he didn't think anything came of it, but it seems like they're still working on it, and that sort of put him in a bit of a panic. He needs to get in touch with the Republic Command and talk to them about this. So that's what he wants to do. And the Republic Command has sort of said, yeah, we'll get back to you. So Saw's chomping at the bit. He's got his more militant folks are still under his command, and they've been in and out of the city and around the planet and doing a bunch of stuff. He's not real forthcoming about what that is. He hasn't quite given up on Onderon, but he really feels like he can see it off the planet and get to the rebellion command because of this intel that he has. And conversation that he had sort of in a flashback with Hesmet reveals that he's willing to do quite a bit to maybe get a last win with Onderon and cut the head off the snake of the command structure that's currently in the Onderon and the system that Onderon is in, up to and potentially blowing up the whole, or collapsing or destroying the whole capital city, even with people in it, if it takes out the commanders for the bases. Intel communication that have been going back and forth indicate, according to O'Leary, that there's rumors going around that the Emperor is going to send somebody out here to investigate what else has been going on. There's other rumors that have been going around that the Senate's sending somebody. Maybe they're both sending somebody, maybe nobody is. General assumption is that if the Emperor is sending somebody, that's good for the Admiral, and if the Senate's sending somebody, it's probably good for the Moff. May not be good for anybody, who knows. So what actually happened last week was that Saw called Hesmet really agitated and yelling about some traitor, some bastard that was here on the planet. He's landed and he's, wind on the mic and that sort of thing, like he's racing somewhere in a speeder, and then he's cut off. At the same time, Akana signaled the base saying that the Empire had landed a transport, a brand new shiny transport at the starport in Aziz, and was sending back images of the people who had landed and who were debarking, and they all seemed to be sort of important folks. Admiral Corlin was already on the ground at the palace with Grand Moff Dardana, who's not getting along very well. We remember these folks, right? Kavi is the one who's been dealing with the junk trader, with some background history with the clones, and then Varala, of course, Ghana's special friend, who's also she's working with you guys, but because she thinks you're Imperial, but also undercover, so it's kind of tricky. Anyway, in addition to that, we've got who else debarked? Well, there's Saw. And we've got Commander, this guy's been identified as Commander Screed. He's sort of an Imperial headhunter who there isn't a lot of intel you have on him yet, but he does not look like a very happy individual. He debarked with two black-suited stormtroopers in tow. Scuttlebutt calls them Death Troopers. Nobody seems to really know what to think of those guys. And then this female Zabrak along with him, some sort of dressed like an Imperial agent, probably is an Imperial agent, doesn't exactly seem to be following him so much as debarked at the same time as him, and kind of spoiling a little bit of this here with what's going on. The next person to debark was this guy who facial recognition identified as Senator Lux Bonteri, the original senator of Onderon. After Onderon was freed from the Separatists, Onderon joined the Republic. And he remained a senator of Onderon even during, once the Emperor was declared, even when the Empire was, going, even after 10 years later that the Empire took over Onderon, he's remained the senator of Onderon under the pretext in the Empire is that Onderon is still free. Saw would have something to say about that. Onderon is still free. It's just being protected by the contingent of stormtroopers from, terrorist rebel behavior, activity, that sort of thing. He debarked. He hasn't been back on Onderon in probably 10 years. So, older. He's weathered a bit. That's probably who Saw was screaming about, the traitor is back and I'm going to kill him and all this other kind of stuff. And he debarked with an as yet identified Saurian guy who appears to be his bodyguard. So, all that's happening. We've got Admiral Corlin and probably Commander Screed sent to be sort of an investigator of what's been going on the planet. This Imperial agent, who knows what she's going to get up to. Bonteri may be some sort of person who's trying to level things out or bring some sort of accord or peace. Who knows what he's trying to attempt, and whatever he's going to attempt, there's probably going to be problems with him. They had a history. They apparently both fought together to free Onderon from the separatists back in the day. But it's safe to say that the active senator who's working with the Senate that's still working with the emperor is probably not Saw's favorite person. And meanwhile, you've got, and theoretically, he's working with the Moff. Who knows what's going on there? And kind of some other question marks around. Once this information came down, there were also some patrols going on. The admiral is patrolling, has got like atmospheric patrols going by with TIE fighters all over the planet. Lots of accusations going back and forth with the fact that it was an Imperial shuttle that apparently escaped from the base just before it exploded, and a lot of fingers being pointed back and forth. So the admiral started doing patrols, and not to be outdone, Dardano's been doing some patrols with just the one flight of TIE fighters that he's got, like 4 TIE fighters. He's doing like flights of 2 around. They don't come too near the base, but they do come fairly close to it. And Backup was sort of watching one of those patrols go by when he got word that apparently on the way to the mess, Hesmet was sort of been attacked by Tour, the droid. Had like grabbed him and was choking him. Somebody else was shouting for help, and so Backup grabbed his rifle and went running that direction. So Tour is malfunctioning. His eyes are flickering weirdly, wildly. He's sort of spasming, almost having like a spasm, a fit, and is grabbing, sort of lifting Hesmet off the ground and choking him, and Backup's kind of running. He rounds the corner, and standing in front of him is, I didn't grab that picture. I should have grabbed that picture. Standing in front of him is his old Jedi commander. Here we go. We'll grab this guy. Bill conveniently provided a link to him. Is his old Jedi commander from back in the Clone Wars, who, there you go, this dude. And, just standing there in the hallway, holding lightsaber out, not down to the side, not ignited, puts his hand out and says, "Stop, wait." And Backup, not knowing really what else to do, it did exactly that. And that's where we stopped. So you've got Backup looking at, presumed dead Jedi from back in the Clone Wars, standing there looking quite alive in the hallway. Tour attacking Hesmet. You've got and all kinds of craziness happening back in the capital city. Wondering what the heck is going to happen there. What's going on there? So that is where we are on. I don't know why that one's open. That is where we are with our. Now we have faces for everybody. Happy about that. And that's where we are when we jump in next week, or this coming week, or Tuesday. Hopefully that wasn't too long. All right, I'll see you guys later. Bye.